Okay, so I see the little cloud just popped up. And since I'm recording, I guess this is kind of an official Kubernetes meeting, and I have to mention that there's a code of conduct, which essentially boils down to please be nice to each other, be kind, don't be a jerk. And with that, let's get started. And let me double check. So there are two things that I'm going to be using for reference throughout this call. One of them is Bob's screen, which hopefully you can see right now. The other one is a document, which I call the agenda document that I shared in the CI Signal Slack yesterday, which I'm checking to see if it's still relatively easy to find, which I think it is. And it's that file that Bob has in there. And let me see. So, what's a good place to start? So I guess just a really quick place to start. Explain CI Signal. Explain what all these things are, the release team and all that. Just for a brief overview. So let me get that in there. Also, if somebody wants to add additional notes besides to what I'm saying, I'll please do so. So let me add something really quick. Release team structure. So the release team has a couple teams. Besides CI Signal, there's bug triage, enhancements, docs, documentation, release notes, communications. And if I'm forgetting something right now, please forgive me. But at least those are the teams that I remember right now. So, some of the teams in the within the release team are release specific. You know, if you want to contribute to other SIGs, to other projects, not everyone has people dedicated to doing communications for anything new that is released. In a lot of projects, communication really just entails sending a tweet or posting something somewhere in a page where, hey, ALB ingress controller, new version, please use it. Some other teams are for example CI Signal are, I want to say, a really good opportunity for newcomers, for people who are interested in joining Kubernetes at large, because the process is we have a lot of test infrastructure. We use that infrastructure to run test, periodic test, and test on every single PR that is made to every single repo within the Kubernetes 6 and any of those organizations. So CI Signal in a way is about making sure that things are working, properly, and that people can have all that infrastructure available to them for them to do really cool stuff, which at first is just a lot of. It might sound like a lot of housework. You know, if something breaks, I just need to bubble it up and create signals so that somebody else can actually fix it. And technically, that is the top priority of CI Signal. Make sure that you observe things, and you mention it to the right people, to the right organization. But the reason why I mentioned that it is a good opportunity for newcomers to get started is because while you're doing that process, it normally involves creating an issue, putting all the pertinent information on that issue and pinging people. Just the fact that you are the fact that you're creating the issue, all the information that you have to be able to know to create that issue is going to give you. It's going to help you gather the context to actually learn how to be a contributor. And since you have to bubble that up, you have to create the signal. You're going to be working with the people that know how to fix it. And you know, in a way, learning is done through osmosis. So that's CI Signal is a really good way for you to get some experience on how things can break, how to fix them, and the like. Some other roles, for example, bug triage, it's a little bit similar. You essentially track down all the issues, all the PRs, make sure that the release team is always aware of something, all the important things. Make sure that they're going, that everything that we need is gonna get into the release. So that one is issue triaging, but a little bit more specific to the release team. Some other teams, for example, enhancements. That's also I want to say that's also a good entryway to contribute to the community at large. But normally, if you get into the situation that you have to review or write a Kubernetes enhancement, then you probably already know how things work, how everything is set up. So enhancements puts you to do enhancements. You need a little bit more. You need a little bit more background. So I wouldn't say that's. I don't know how. You need some extra experience to get started with the community. That's your entry point. And of course, most of this is an opinion. And if somebody wants to interrupt me, please do so. The whole idea for this call is for me to be interrupted, for people to ask questions. And with that, I'm gonna stop really quick to ask, what are your questions right now? I see some quietness. So that's I'm gonna take that as a good signal. So now to actually start with the CI signal part of this tour, Bob, could you do me a favor and go to? Man, I should have really put a lot more links here. Could you go to the Kubernetes org and look for the CI signal project? Just for us to get started, on what the job looks like. Sorry. Go to the. Let me find it really quick. So if you go to Kubernetes org, to the actual page, not the repo.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, within projects. And actually, I just posted a link in the notes.
Okay, the project board.
Yeah, sorry for making you travel around the place.
It's all good.
Future reference. This is a useful link. So again, as I mentioned, CI signal is all about creating signal. So the first step, actually, if you could you open up another tab to test grid, please? It's in that and go to set release, blocking or informing. But right now, just to give some structure, this is test grid. This is the place where every single CI test that's owned by Kubernetes, that's where it's stored. And that's where every single SIG, every single group can go in there, check out their boards. And for SIG release, we have a bunch of boards for each release, and for the latest in master. The latest in master, it has an informing and a master blocking. And as you can see, there's a bunch of tabs. Each tab has a green square, a green rectangle associated to it. And that's the technical name for it is a CI job. And within each job, you can see that there's a list down there, and every single one of them is an end-to-end test. And to the right, you can see a bunch of columns with rectangles and all the things. So those are runs. So test grid is gonna give test grid essentially summarizes all the CI jobs I have run. It's gonna give you it's going to tell you all the tests are run in a given job, and it's gonna tell you if they pass or they fail, or if they fail. Green rectangle means it passed. Red rectangle means it failed. And actually, the thing that Bob just clicked, it sends you to another page with a lot more detailed summary, everything in the logs for that job. And if there was a failure at the near the top, it will actually give you a summary of what the failure was, a quick short message. And this page is called Spyglass. And I have a link for Spyglass in the agenda as well, if people just want to check it out directly. But these are essentially the entry points to CI Signal. So the job is to monitor test grid. If you actually sign up as part of the release team, then you're gonna get notifications through email. But essentially, the job just boils down to going through the blocking, informing dashboards, make sure that all the jobs are healthy, if that things look right. If for some reason something doesn't look right, for example, that one is master informing, I believe, then in that case, you could you click on one, whichever one you like. So for example, right there, you see a bunch of things are breaking, which actually is just one test that has been continuously failing. If you go on Spyglass, you can see the error message associated for that for that error. And if you ever see something like that, the normal process is to open up an issue on Kubernetes. And could you go back to the project? Could you go back to the project board, please, Bob? And just click on any of the issues that we have in there. So whenever there is an issue, it's gonna look something like this. You give it a title just to tell people that you have to give some background information, like, hey, this job is failing for such a reason, and we have all this information. If you can add logs that specify why something might be breaking or any important information, please add it. But the way that we surface an issue normally is through the bunch of labels. So for example, the most important labels that people are going to look for are the kind failing test and priority. If kind failing test, that's something that CI Signal, bug triage, the teams are definitely going to look for. Priority, the priorities, normally you're going to see a lot of critical, urgent, and important soon. Critical urgent means that someone is working on it right now, or someone should be working on it right now. Priority soon, it might be a failure. That's it might. For example, one reason that you might see a priority soon is one of the jobs might be breaking, but it might not actually be anything wrong with Kubernetes itself. There might be something wrong with the test setup. So we actually need to fix the test setup instead of Kubernetes. And some other job categories actually flaky jobs, flaky test. So if you're looking at screen, there's another example. The label for that one is kind flake, and there. Let me go through the flakes. So one thing we definitely want to fix are failures. The other priority is to also look for flakes. If you normally on test grid, flakes show up with the purple rectangle, and if you on test grid, it's gonna give you a summary of this percentage of the run within the past week have failed. If you see that any tests have been flaking a lot, then we also create an issue to signal people, hey, we need help fixing this, helping them make better. Because if tests are flaking for some reason, then that obscures the quality of our signal. And at some point, whenever we are trying to make a release, something might be failing, but it might not be a real failure. But instead of we need all that information. Also, there is a thing really quick that I'm gonna add to the talks right now. So as I mentioned, all the issues we look at them based on people find them based on labels. Everybody has their own all the teams have their own GitHub queries and the like, and the labels are applied by this piece of infrastructure that's called PRAO. And Proud. And within the agenda, let me, if you look at the agenda, there's a section for Proud. And let me add one quick link. So if you're wondering how to apply labels, why things look the way they are, check out this handy issue. It's gonna tell you all the things that you can do. So if you just type one of those commands in an issue or on a PR, that's gonna Prowl, which is this robot that lives in Kubernetes, it's going to find your command and it's gonna do whatever you told it to. So we use it for labels. We use it to apply milestones, to approve a PR, to deny a PR if for some reason it's bad, and all the like. So I'm gonna stop really quick. People have any questions? Actually, I'm gonna switch around. So at least the main point that I wanted to communicate at this stage is the normal workflow of CI signal. So if you attend a meeting or a release the meeting or something of the sort, and people start spewing out things like we have so many failures in master informing, master blocking, blah blah blah. Right now this process, the work that they do, doesn't make sense? Or is someone here interested in hearing a little bit more details on some specific part? Okay. I saw somebody muted. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, so got the idea. So basically we need to check for, okay, why the test is failing, or maybe go for the test grid and see the errors coming up, right? And then report it to the, I mean, as a issue, right? This is the reason, this is failing, right? Or okay.
Absolutely. Now let me look really quickly at some of the comments that people made. So there's a suggestion: find a few active bugs, and after this might be scary life. This is I feel like this is something that I could have done a little bit in preparation for this call.
Yeah, it's fine. You're doing it live.
But you know what? That might actually be useful. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna save it for part 2 if we don't do it on video because people are not available or some other reason. Then definitely we'll try to write something like a playbook for what to look for and what do we do if Proud fails. So actually, before we go into that one, there is another thing. There's another really useful thing to have for reference, and it answers the question of what actually is Proud and what are all the things that we have in Kubernetes. So Proud, it's part of I don't know what the technical wording for this is, but within Proud, there's a lot of infrastructure that we use and we rely for Kubernetes. And Proud is the main things that Proud does is it checks, it runs or CI jobs, and first thing first. So let me create another bullet point within the agenda. So release team structure, test grid, spyglass. So we vaguely covered those. Let me go on the Proud. So test infrastructure.
If you want a good post that's an overview of Prow and some of the like Plank and all that, Ben's blog post from a while ago is a really good one.
Definitely. Yeah, I kind of forgot those existed. but those are yeah. We'll try to get that. We'll try to get that in the agenda, but at least there's the new. Let me approve that. Thank you. Thank you.
Because this has the breakdown of like when you hear people talk about like deck or like tide and things like that. This picture actually covers it pretty well.
And that's a pretty good picture. So besides that one, there is the link that I added in the notes. That's the link to the I guess the SIG testing approved architecture diagram, which is not as colorful or happy as the one that Ben made. And let me look for a couple other things.
So, quick question. Do we need? Sorry. Sorry.
Go for it.
So, do we need to install Prow on our machine? I mean, at some point, or to see how it's been really like, so or not really.
We could do that. That's a little bit outside of the scope. You really don't need it to do any of this work. That would be useful if you were interested in developing, contributing to Prow and all the other things, or if you wanted to write your own CI to write your own test and kind of take it for a drive. But to do any of this work, you really don't need it. Since we already have Prow running in a ton of clusters, and all those clusters are completely automated.
If you are interested in Prow and setting up locally, at this past contributor summit, there was a 2-part session that goes through how to get it up and going locally with Kind. Can drop a link in there.
That would be great. Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Todd.
Man, that's really cool. I didn't know that thing happened. Well, at least going back to a couple links. So the test infrastructure link within that's gonna show you what Prow does, what Prow is connected to, and it's gonna show you a bunch of other services that are available to us and hosted by SIG testing. If you look at that diagram, the main things to look at is could you open up the diagram, Bob, please?
Oh, sorry, I was grabbing a link. What do you want me to open up?
The testing diagram, please.
Oh, this one. Okay.
Yeah. So within that diagram, there's a little bit too much information in there, but at least a couple things are good. Just to have just to know how they're connected is at the top. One of the gray circles. There's GitHub. So GitHub is gonna serve as a source and as a destination for a lot of the information. Then the rectangle that covers all the circles and all that is essentially Prow. And within Prow, you can see that there are other services such as Splice, Star Batch Jobs, Flying Prow Job Controller, Dot, Ben, Build Numbers, etc. So Prow has a lot of services that it exposes. But essentially, it's just this one block that makes sure that things happen in the cluster. It runs job and the like. One of the last stages within Prow is a job. So a job is a CI job, and that job normally it outputs all its logs and it sends them to Google Cloud Storage, which is the next stage in the diagram, the gray square that says GCS. So all the logs are going to be organized in there, and then TestGrid is going to consume them, and it does its magic, and that's how we get information in TestGrid. And at least that's a broad overview. The other thing, the other thing to mention. So the infrastructure, it's gonna come into play, I guess, more in part 2 of this series, which is gonna be of how to actually troubleshoot and look for bugs. The other thing that we should that I just want to mention right now is that the test config, which is the next link under the testing for one. Could you open it up really quick, Bob, please?
Oh, sorry. Which one do you want me to open up?
In the agenda, the link before below the test infrastructure, the one that says test configs. And
whoops.
Yeah, that one. And whichever one you want. But this one, super boring. But just want to show it, put it out there, and mention that this. The files that you're looking at, this is actually a proud configuration. So Kubernetes YAML. That's it has either somewhere. And these files are the ones that Prow actually looks at. So all the jobs that run in there, there are most of the time these are YAML files with this type of structure configuration, and most of them you can find them within the Kubernetes organization in GitHub. In the infra repo under config jobs, and then you have all the jobs for Kubernetes itself organized by SIG, or you can also see proud jobs for the Kubernetes 6. But essentially, most of CI is specified. It's specified within this place. And stopping. Gonna stop really quick. People have any questions, comments? Something that you definitely want to see right now, right here.
So quick question. So do we need to change something in test infra repo in this? I mean, or we don't need to change anything here. I mean, that I'd like to know.
Could you?
Let's say next release. So yeah. So let's say for next release or maybe the next 1.18 or 19, do we need to modify all those things as per requirement and keep a file like here? And what will be our job? The releasing your team job in this repo? I'd like to know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So there are a couple things that usually need to be modified within the CI jobs, and who modifies what part? It depends. So let me check it out. Bob, okay, so let's go down the different sections of a pro job just to get a better idea. So at least the first answer on who modifies one group of people that modifies these jobs is the people from SIG, the special interest group testing. So people from SIG testing. Every time they do a bump on Prow, so whenever they release a new version or something of the sort, a lot of these files are going to be updated in some way for them to know, hey, we should use this new image to run our test. And yeah, there you can see the history. Usually what changes every time those bumps are made. Also, a lot of that job is automated. So if this is something like that sounds interesting to you, joining the SIG testing channel in Slack, contributing, going through the issues. That's usually a good first step. And It's gonna be fun. Essentially, the goal is to automate everything.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, the other things that people usually change within these jobs is if you look at the top, there is a section that says periodics annotations, and then it has test grid alert, results, shown, dashboard, columns, recent, and all that. Those are essentially parameters for. So as I mentioned, going back to the infrastructure, you have GitHub where all the code is. Prow is going to always going to test the latest in the branches. It's going to test all the PRs. So it gets all information from GitHub to run a job. The output of it is going to be a bunch of logs, and TestGrid uses those logs to interprets those logs. So technically, the organization of for example, the SIG release master informing, master blocking, we know what jobs are interesting to a certain group by annotation. So, for example, TestGrid dashboard. That means all the logs produced by this job are going to be put in these dashboards for these people to monitor. The other settings are for alerts. If for some reason a job doesn't run within so many hours, then create an alert. If it has more than this many number of failures, create an alert, etc., along with the name. People, we might update those areas whenever we want to move a job. Whenever we want to move a job around, that's also I think the owning SIG. So usually SIG release, we are mostly interested with releasing Kubernetes. The vast majority of the jobs that we are looking at, some 95% of all the jobs that we look at, are actually owned by other SIGs. So they run these jobs. They write the code for them. They set them up, and we just monitor them to make sure that things are running. And let me see. What should I go over first? Actually, Bob, could you go back to one of the broad job definitions, please? So yeah, so if you go here, this other section, and this is something that contributors, and this is the part that contributors actually take part into the whole CI signal mechanism. Is if you look at the structure of the job, there's a spec, and within spec you can define containers, arguments, and all that. So within Kubernetes, I'm gonna give the example just for Kubernetes, just for the actual Kubernetes project right now. Within the Kubernetes repo, there's a directory that's called test. That directory contains thousands of files. All of them are end-to-end tests, which are written based on Ginkgo, which is a library for behavior-driven development. Whenever you want to use Ginkgo, you have the ability to specify I want to only run these jobs, and you can give some type of regex, some type of labels, and those are whenever you're actually creating a CI job or modifying a CI job, you can do two things. So you can go within the code and add a specific label to your test or something, and whenever a CI job runs looking for that label, it's going to run your test, and that's how you incorporate it. If you're creating a job or modifying a job, then you can also come to this file, and under test args, Ginkgo focus, you just add all the labels or whatever regex that you want to use to match certain types of jobs. And again, when you go and test with a huge list of tests, that's where they come from. So Prow essentially regexes them out and just runs whatever you told it to. And that's another thing that we can modify every now and then we do it. Along with the test args, every single thing that is within spec containers args, that's also something that we might change every now and then. Another interesting one is if you look within the args, there's usually one that's called extract, and it has something like equal CI latest 115, 117, alpha, beta. You might see different names. That is how you tell a CI job what Kubernetes version to run. Because besides testing the latest that we have on GitHub, we can also test previous versions. So we release them, and then we just tell Prow, hey, download this version and use it to set up a cluster and run your end-to-end test. And usually within this area, you can also specify some other arguments in case you want to set up your the Kubernetes cluster that you're going to use for your end-to-end test in a special manner. So if you want to enable some feature gate, disable some feature gate, or pass some extra information to some controller, you usually specify that information within this place. And those are and that is the long-winded version to your answer of who modifies what. So it really comes down to, it depends what you're trying to do. One quick thing I mentioned, but just to reiterate, jobs are actually owned by SIGs. So within SIG release, we want to make sure that we can help them out. Run their jobs, help them track them, make sure that they work and all that, and that's why we create issues, and we do that type of thing. But ultimately, the SIGs own these jobs. So if people want to add a new test, delete the test, modify a test, or something of the sort, then that's now within the that is now within the scope of SIG release, technically, not within the release team, and that's one with the SIG. Though, given that this is a community run that's running out of that runs based on contributors. If you want to help fix a test, if you think that there should be an end-to-end test for a given feature or some functionality that doesn't exist, you are completely free to work on it. There are plenty of examples within the Kubernetes repo. Again, just look under test. There are plenty of examples for you to take a look at them and figure out the structure. What are the things that you need to look at, and just write your own test. Again, like everything in Kubernetes, everything is based on PRs. So if you think that something is good, you just PR it, ping a couple people, and we'll make sure it gets added, it gets fixed, or whatever. And yes, do people have any other questions, comments, concerns? Gonna take the silence as a good thing. Just to go back to the agenda really quickly, there are a couple other links that I added for triage, for triage and monitoring. Just to go really quickly through those. Bob, could you open up the triage one? And these couple other links that I added and have not discussed yet, these are actually tooling tooling that's set up by SIG testing and available for developers and all that. use. So first off, Triage. If you the couple things to notice from Triage is it essentially summarizes everything that's going on. Again, if you go back to the infrastructure diagram, so Prowl is going to send all the logs to GCS. They're going to be sitting in a Google Cloud Storage bucket. And besides TestGrid, there are some other services that are going to consume it and send everything to TestGrid to this service that's called Triage. And within Triage, you can look for specific tests, specific failures. Essentially, just try to. So usually TestGrid, it's really good if you want to look at a job. You have a failure, you have a failing test. You click on one of the runs. You go to Spyglass, and Spyglass is going to show you all the logs. Within Triage, you get the global perspective. So now if you click on the link that I added to the agenda, for example, it's going to show you the results for a CI job that's called full Kubernetes end-to-end GCE, and that is one of the CI jobs that runs on every single PR. And within the graphs, you're going to see how many failures it has had per hour within the last week, within the last 2 weeks, and you're going to see the failures organized by different clusters, by different jobs. When it does it by jobs, it's going to give you all the Kinko information, like it was run because it was looking for these labels: slow, serial, disruptive, flaky, feature, etc. The other couple things that are really useful. So actually, I'm going to use Triage as a segue. So as I mentioned, the graphs that we're looking at right now, these are for a CI job that runs on every single PR, and we call these jobs pre-submits. So the other thing to go along with that is Bob, if you could go back to the agenda in the Prowl section, at the bottom there's a link that says Prowl Kubernetes IO type. Could you click on it, please? And so going on to this one. So every single thing that comes into Kubernetes or any repo within Kubernetes, all the PRs are going to run through pre-submit. The pre-submit is just a series of end-to-end tests that are run against every single end-to-end integration and unit tests that are run against every single piece of code that gets added. Proud, one of the components of Proud is called I don't know if this is the correct wording, but I want to say that one of the components is tied, and tied is going to tied essentially. So this part of Prowl goes, taking the example of Kubernetes, every couple of hours it's going to try to do a batch job, and it's going to look for all the PRs that have been approved. Normally, all the PRs are approved whenever people add the all-GTM label along with an approved label. Whenever one of those jobs is approved, then it's going to try to merge them, and the link to the tied status is actually the list of PRs that are pending another run in CI. So whenever they pass the next run, they're going to be merged. The queue for retest. Those are again just a bunch of PRs are waiting to be tested again before they actually get merged. The other page that Bob was just showing you is actually the link, and I think you can get to that page if you click the link above it. Just the Prowl Kubernetes IO. That one is going to show you every single test that is running for every single PR, and that's why it looks that's why there's so much information. Also, Prowl is not specific to Kubernetes. Lots of people use it. So every now and then you might see some PRs for Helm, Cops, and along with 100 other projects. So these last two, Triage. Triage, you can use it to to diagnose pre-submits, which are the things that run on PRs, along with periodics, which are the things that we run on CI and we use for quality testing of our releases. The other last thing that I want to show for this call is under the section monitoring proud, and these are more dashboards that we can use to diagnose things. And all of these dashboards are essentially for proud components. For example, one. Which one was it? Which one did you open, Bob?
I just went to GitHub Cache. I can go to any of them though.
That's a good one. But you know, that one is gonna give you info on what is it? Actually,
this is actually probably another good one. The title side.
Yeah. Subtitle. It's gonna give you more information. It's gonna give you more information about that. To be fair, I haven't really explored this one. I just discovered that it existed yesterday. Before this, there was another thing that we use a lot. That's called Velodrome. And within the agenda, I also right below monitoring proud Kubernetes IO, I added Velodrome, but it seems to be like Velodrome is kind of broken. And I guess the future is monitoring proud, but again, this is yet another tool to make sure that things are running and that we can use to figure out how to fix things whenever they break, because at some point they will break. And that was the issue that Aaron opened up about Velodrome, kind of like. And at least for this call, I want to keep it as just this. As Jim mentioned, I think it will be really useful to actually go through a bug, try to open something, try to troubleshoot it. If people are interested, I would love to do this, and I'll make sure to have a computer that's available and can actually do things without crashing. Other than that, and again, if you're interested, please drop a message, an emoji, something, somewhere, so I know that what will be useful to all of you. I'll definitely create some documentation just to try to help onboarding people in the future. But other than that, I've been to you all. What are your questions, comments, concerns at this moment?
I'm still learning, but thank you, George, for putting this together. Really appreciate it. It's good to see it again.
A pleasure. And I guess with that, again, and the message, I'll work on the next part, and I'll make sure to have some. I'll make sure to not bother Bob again with all the clicking around. I apologize, but thank you very much for helping in this hour of need. And I'll let all of you go. Thank you very much for attending. There's more to there's a lot more to come. And another thing, for every single person that mentioned that they were interested in doing CI signal, I'll try to ping you in some way, and actually try one goal that I really want to make sure that happens before 118 happens is that every single person that mentioned that they were interested, want to give you all of you the opportunity to actually open up an issue, try to troubleshoot it. I don't know if we can fix it, because it might be a really simple fix that we find, which takes 5 minutes, or might be something hugely complicated that's going to take lots of troubleshooting, a lot of people to ping. But yeah, I'll definitely try to get everyone that mentioned that they were interested to at least give it a try. Enough to know what's going to happen. And if something really breaks, just for context, I don't know if some people might be new, but there's this contributor that's called Jordan Liggett, and he's the one person that knows every single thing about Kubernetes. So whenever we mention that if you want to be the next Liggett, that's who we're talking about, and the one person that knows every single thing about Kubernetes. And with that, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And what is today? Happy Wednesday.
It's Thursday.
Damn. Happy Thursday.
Thank you, George.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Later.
Thanks, George.
Later. Stop recording.